Welcome to Transportation Development. I'm Cheryl Harleston. We're going to be talking about the Transportation Sales Tax Program that's been in existence for quite a while now, and a lot of good projects have come about. Today, we're going to be talking about bicycling and the opportunities that those who like to bike through Charleston and enjoy the outdoors. Multi-use paths are used for that, and again, it's a part of the sales tax program. And it's something that we build very well at Transportation Development. I'd like you to meet my guest for today. He is Kurt Cavanaugh, and he's the Executive Director for an organization called Charleston Moves. Welcome to our program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Charleston Moves.
That's right.
And so one of the things that I was saying to the audience is that this program, the sales tax program, provides opportunities to build multi-use paths. Explain to the listeners and the watchers, what is a multi-use path?
It's exactly that. It's multi-use, i.e. Those who want to walk, jog, or bike on it can use it. And the only folks who can't use it are those who are driving a motor vehicle.
Right.
So it's usually a path adjacent to a roadway that is separated by the roadway from just with space, with planting, with whatever, and people use that to walk and bike more freely, more safely than they would on the street itself.
We see all sorts of people with all sorts of ideas about how they want to use the paths in our community, and the Ben Sawyer path is one that I think of in Mount Pleasant. But it's being used. I never knew there were so many people who enjoyed being outdoors, moving about, and these paths take you from various destinations to new ones. But what is Charleston Moves? What exactly does your organization do? And tell us how that connects with the sales tax and transportation development.
Charleston Moves is a nonprofit bicycle and pedestrian advocacy group. But what does that mean, right? That sounds kind of, what does that even mean? What we advocate for is for livable, sane, safe streets for all users, those who bike, those who walk, those who drive. It is a group that advocates for, slower speeds, safer streets for all the people that use them. And it fits in with the transportation sales tax with things like advocating toward things like the multi-use path on Ben Sawyer. We see our streets not simply as things to drive on. We see them as public spaces. We see them almost as like parks. Like people should be able to use the streets. They're not just there to drive as fast as they possibly can, but to enjoy our city, to walk or to bike or to, we can motor as well.
When I think about Charleston Moves, I also think about women and men who want to have their children out and about and who are bicycling with their children. It's a family opportunity to get together and bicycle and jog and to ride the baby and the baby carriage. And we see all of that kind of thing going on. Summer, winter, and fall. It's a year-round opportunity, it seems like to me.
Oh, we have fantastic weather here in Charleston County.
Yes, we do.
I mean, it may get a little bit warm in the summer, but a lot of people will take a little warm in the summer over the northern winters and things like that. So we see a lot of people moving in. Charleston Moves, people say, you're the bike group, you're the bike group. Well, I think we're the livable, lovable city group. People are out enjoying their city. They're not stuck on 26 in traffic. They're not stuck way out in their car somewhere. They're actually able to get outside the car and move around safely and conveniently without having to, get the car keys out and, bike with their kids, walk with their kids, just enjoy life at a different pace. And be outside breathing in our saltwater air.
Is this kind of a notion something that we find only in Charleston, South Carolina, or is it something that we may hear about or see in various other parts of the country?
Well, what's interesting is I think people around the country, if not the world, are realizing that cities are really awesome places to be. And people are moving back into center cities. And they're doing it because they realize they don't want to have to go long distances to work or to go see a movie or to go out to dinner with friends. They want to be able to do it pretty close to home. And if that's the case, well, we see that coming into our city as well. Other cities are building things, we're building things, but we're in Charleston, we're kind of playing catch up. in terms of the bike and pedestrian facilities, the safe facilities for the mom and dad to have their kid behind them in a bike trailer, all the way to someone who wants to bike 10 miles to work or 2 miles to work. We're playing catch up a bit here in Charleston.
Now, not every road that's being reformed or built upon here in Charleston with transportation development has a bicycle path. Should there be one for every road, or are there just some locations that this makes for a better partner, that is a bike path?
Sure. Not every street needs a bike lane. Absolutely not. Streets that are already calm, by calm I mean slow traffic, neighborhood streets or residential streets, you don't need a bike lane. But when traffic gets faster and gets more voluminous, that's when you want at least a bike lane, if not a separated lane like a multi-use path, something protected, something that gives the person on a bike or walking a little more space and some more protection, and it's a more convenient and enjoyable way to get around if you're actually on the bike or walking, is a separation from that fast-moving traffic.
How do all of these different activities though gel together or come together and everyone has an opportunity to use these paths? It seems to me that there are some folks who are going to say, I'm a jogger, I'm not going to push a baby carriage along this path, or I'm not going to go on this path because joggers are there. Are people discouraged because there's such a mixture of activities?
I don't think there's much to be, not really discouraged from using the facility itself. For instance, we see so many different types of users using the Ben Sawyer multi-use path to using the Ravenel Bridge bike and pedestrian lane. Those are I see those as linear parks almost. Greenways, multi-use paths, whatever you call them, are for every type of user other than the driver, pretty much. And if you see, the rule of the road is on the multi-use path, for instance, is the pedestrian has the right of way all the time. And I haven't heard many stories regarding people being discouraged from using it who are for different reasons. People are really excited to use it.
From your position, do you feel that there should be multi-use paths on every street, even on highways, busy highways? Is that something that's not acceptable here, or?
Well, you wouldn't see them on I-26. You wouldn't see them on I-26.
Should we be working towards this kind of an approach?
There are appropriate bike facilities and inappropriate ones. Like, for instance, we hear all the time, well, no one uses the bike lane on St. Andrews Boulevard, or no one uses the bike lane on Morrison Drive. Well, that's not quite true, but only the the intrepid, the really confident are using that, or those who have no other choice but to ride down that street. People don't use those because it's not a very, you don't feel very safe in it. You just have that strip of paint and cars flying by you. So we'd love to see a more appropriate bike lane, such as a protected one or multi-use path along those very busy corridors. But like I said, not every street needs a bike lane. I live on a very small residential street in downtown Charleston. There's no need for the bike lanes, very slow traffic.
Well, how does the government know where to build them, though? Do we have some direction, and who's that coming from?
It's really exciting right now. Charleston Moves is working hand in hand with the City of Charleston and the Design Division and the Department of City Planning on a pilot project called the Downtown Bike Plan. And that's very much in a draft phase right now. But what we did was we didn't know where we needed to put the protected lanes or the bike lanes or no lanes. But we asked people for their input, the public, and said, hey, where do you bike right now? This is Peninsula only, so it's very much just downtown at this point. But we asked, where do you bike? Where do you bike now? And we would have been happy with about 1,000 responses. We thought that would be a representative number. Well, we were blown away by the response to that. It was an online survey. Most of it was online. We did have hard copies as well. We had 1,300 people complete that survey and gave us 1,700 bike routes.
Wow.
And it wasn't all downtown. That was the cool thing. It was the downtown. We asked for downtown routes. People were so excited to be asked this question. People from Mount Pleasant were giving us information. People from West Ashley were giving us information. North Charleston, James Island. So we have all this data now showing, okay, this is where people are riding. Let's make those areas safer. So now it's actually a data-based approach to our planning for our streets, because to answer your question, we didn't know.
Right.
The nonprofit didn't know, and the government wasn't quite sure where to put them either. But now we have all this data to work with.
There are several types, it seems to me, of multi-use paths. For an example, there are some that are right there flush with the road, and there might be just a line. And then there's some that are raised and they're literally paths. They probably used to be walkways. And I know that we've built that kind, both kinds really. Which is preferable, do you think, in the minds of bicyclers and walkers and joggers?
If you ask that question to two bicyclists, you may very well get two different answers. Same thing with two people who are walking, you may get two different answers. It's usually situational, and for instance, you wouldn't want to put a protected bike lane that's separated from the street, raised, on a street that's only 20 miles an hour, right? Because you already feel pretty safe. But you would want to put that on, you would definitely wanted to put that on Ben Sawyer, because cars go pretty fast down that.
Right.
You wouldn't have seen mom and dad with the kid trailer behind them on their bikes going to the beach before that multi-use path was installed. But now you see that. So it's all about appropriateness per the situation of the street. So there are different levels of bike lanes and bike facilities or multi-use paths.
We're taking a look right now at the Ben Sawyer multi-use path, and we saw before and then an after, and there have been improvements. It's not just the grass or this, but this requires paving and good paving, and the engineers that were responsible for this project really seem to enjoy the fact that many, many people are utilizing this pathway. Do you bicycle around the community? I heard that, in fact, you come to appointments or go to appointments and you're using a bicycle to get around the community. I mean, are you that much into this idea of bicycling and pathways?
Oh,
I guess so, because you're
absolutely.
the head of Charleston Moves.
I haven't owned a car in over 10 years.
Wow.
And that's purely by choice. I'm very fortunate that I could easily afford a car. I just choose not to have one. Some of our members in the community don't have that choice. But I do, and I do get around strictly by bicycle, or I walk around downtown quite a bit. For instance, today I have to admit that I did take a Uber cab here. I have a lot of running around to do, but I'm very comfortable riding around the streets of Charleston and Charleston County on my bicycle. But I'm part of what I would call the small 1 or 2% of people that currently bike and are kind of the intrepid soldiers who are already out there doing it. We're going to bike regardless, right? The really cool thing is that next group of people. We've seen data from around the country showing that 1 to 2% of people are already comfortable biking. We're going to bike regardless. That's your bicycle riders on the weekends who have the tight clothes on.
Yeah.
That's your bike messengers downtown.
Okay, right.
And that's even in downtown Charleston, even your College of Charleston kids who are zipping by on their beach cruisers. But that's a small percentage of our population. If we want to get to a bigger, what we call in the planning world, a mode share of how we get around for bicycling, that next group really wants to do it, but they're concerned about safety. And that's the big obstacle. And what we've learned over the years of looking at as biking as transportation as opposed to just recreation, which is what it was looked at for a long, long time in many places, including Charleston, we see that you need to actually put facilities, bike lanes, multi-use paths to get more people out.
I'm glad you brought that up, because in larger cities, I don't know about here in Charleston because I'm not a part of the bicycling organization that you're representing today, and I don't do a lot of that anymore. But I enjoy seeing other people utilizing the bicycle paths, or the multi-use paths as they're called. But do you feel that safety is an issue, and are we dealing with that? Are people being trained and made to understand in the bicycle world? Are they being trained, and do they understand that you cannot just simply take over the road system? Because I know there's some folks saying, well, the bicyclists get in the way, and sometimes there are repercussions.
Sure.
Why don't we talk about that in just a moment? There have been some accidents. There have been some opportunities for educating the public, and this is a good time for us to do that so we can avoid. Not every road is made for a bicycle, and we need to talk about that.
Sure.
We'll be back in just a moment and talk about bicyclists and some of the accidents that have taken place, unfortunately, in our community.